And there's plenty of news to tell you about this morning. Tax investigators in New York State are looking into a bombshell report that appears to undermine 4 decades of self-promotion by President Trump. The New York Times investigation says the president apparently received the equivalent of at least $413 million from his father's real estate empire, much of it through tax dodges.
Mr. Trump has always claimed to be a self-made billionaire. It was a central theme of his 2016 campaign.
I got a very, very small loan from my father many years ago. I built that into a massive empire, and I paid my father back that loan. And by the way,
the Times calls some of the tax schemes outright fraud. The president's lawyer says there was no fraud or tax evasion by anyone. Paula Reid is at the White House with more on this story. Paula, good morning. This was big news.
This is big news. The New York Times says it reviewed over 100,000 financial documents, and they found that in every era of the president's life, his finances were dependent on his father's wealth. And as you just heard, the president has long claimed that $1 million loan is what jump-started his empire. But the Times found that he received at least $60 million in loans from his father, which he did not pay back in full. And much of his wealth was acquired by participating in what the Times calls dubious tax schemes. Among them, Mr. Trump and his siblings set up a sham corporation to disguise gifts from their parents and helped his father take improper tax deductions and help formulate a strategy to undervalue his parents' real estate holdings. In all, the Times estimates those maneuvers helped the Trump family avoid paying at least $550 million in gift and inheritance taxes. They instead paid just over $50 million. But an attorney for the president called the Times' allegations of fraud and tax evasion 100% false and highly defamatory. The White House issued an unusual statement. They called the article a misleading attack, but then went on to list the president's many accomplishments and take some shots at the New York Times. Now, the statute of limitations for any criminal charges has passed if these allegations turn out to be true, but there is a possibility of civil fines. John?
Paula, thanks.